destabilising aspects, what to look out for when you're setting goals. Let's talk about it. Hello, Thunderhawk Coaching. Will here. Today we're going to talk about some things you need to think about when setting goals that I don't see anyone talk about. So the video is called Destabilising Aspects, what to look out for when setting goals. One of the huge things I'm gonna start with that I don't think a lot of people really talk about enough and think about enough, and yes, it is that deep, are your relationships. So in my opinion, when you are a person in the world and you have an established relationship with somebody, they're going to build expectations about you, what you should be and what you should do, right? We're going to build different ways we subconsciously just are with each other, and we're going to have these scripts, in my opinion, that build up in relationships. Okay, so if you think about your mom, for example, your mom might still see you as a little boy, right? She might respond to you like you're a little boy or a little girl or a little child, right? In some ways, because that's how they're going to see you. That's the relationship and history they have with you. So part of them is always going to feel like you're like that, and part of their expectations are going to go in that direction subconsciously when they talk to you. So this is true in all relationships. We all kind of fit certain roles in other people's heads, right? So when we start changing, we're gonna get some very subtle feedback that that's not okay, right? People are gonna struggle to figure out how to relate to you. People are gonna, say if you want to start a business, right? You've got some buddies you go and drink with, you go and have a beer with, or you've got some friends you go out and have a fun day out with. Maybe you go rock climbing, or it's very masculine coded, but I see it in a certain way, right? Maybe see from my experience, I was the fat friend. Do the fat friend thing, and people expected me and assumed I was the funny fat friend. Okay, so that was my role, right? But now I'm not fat really. I'm technically still obese per BMI, but I fit into normal size clothes. This t-shirt on me right now is huge because I'm way smaller. But the relationships I have still haven't caught up with that. So it can be really easy and really common, right? If you have a buddy and you go out for drinks and a meal, right? If you're trying to lose weight, drinks and a meal is a lot of calories, and it's probably going to set you back. But it's really hard to be no, I'm going to be different and I'm not going to fall into this comfortable pattern of relating, because you could be tired. Life's hard, you know what I mean? Making conscious, concerted decisions in the face of relationships is really hard, right? It's why when you were in school, people were don't this wasn't my experience anyway, don't hang out with the drug kids, right? Because if you build a relationship with the drug kids, they're gonna have certain patterns of relating. The logic underneath that was they're gonna think about drugs, do stuff with drugs, and get caught up in drugs, right? So who you are really shapes the habits you build and the relationships you have result in certain habits, right? And when we're setting goals, generally we want to change some kind of habit. So look at your relationships. What do you typically do with people? Write a few of them down, right? What do you do with your friends? Do you play video games all the time? If you play video games all the time and you want to lose weight because you're sat inside all the time, you want to gain weight and get bigger and get muscles, playing video games with your buddies all day, it's not going to help with that. Right? It's not. If you go to bars and have, a tequila sunrise with the girls, and you have a bunch of drinks, that's probably not going to help the whole weight loss thing too. It's about being aware of how your relationships feed into habits. So this is a cyclical loop, in my opinion, right? Our relationships are essentially how we figure out who we are in the world and how we relate to ourselves and other people. So if I see myself as the fat friend, and then other people see me as the fat friend, I will do things that I assume line up with the idea of being the fat friend. And that will make me probably stay the fat friend, right? And the hardest part about changing the habits is accepting the relational backlash that comes with it, right? I'm not the fat friend anymore. I'm just the friend, right? And like, some of my friends don't know what to do with that. My family certainly don't know what to do with that. The closer the relationship is as well, the more I see these challenges come up, because the roles are more entrenched and a bigger part of their relational pie. So, you know, I'm thinking especially with parents, right? Like my mum's like, you're not fat anymore. I used to just offer you food, and that used to be how we had a relationship. What do I do now? Right? And there's that kind of undertone, that friction, that like, I'm a bit uncomfortable. I don't know how to address this. That's going to happen in a lot of different ways, right? That's going to happen with your friends. It's going to happen with your romantic relationships. If you're not open to like learning who the person is now, or you're not changing together, I think changing with people is a really helpful way to like manage this. But that's unfortunately not always a reality for a lot of people. So something I'm going to encourage for you folks here is write down some of the roles you think you fall into when you're with certain friends, right? So for example, fat friend, I've got this group of friends and I was the fat friend, and the activities took shape around the fact that I was the fat friend, right? I think at this time I went hiking with some friends and I felt like I was slowing them down, and I was the fat friend, and I was trying to push out of the fat friend stereotype there, but I failed. So then we went back to like playing card games, board games, etc. And I didn't go hiking with them again. But now I'm like changing my habits and like improving my health and using appropriate medication. I used the tirzepatide, Manjaro, and put myself in a position where I'm like in a healthier body now, where I can go and do stuff like that and like have different relationships and do different activities. And that's important. Also, something else that I think people don't acknowledge enough when thinking about the aspects that destabilize our goals, or like really having our goals rooted in like a duty, something that's beyond ourselves, because I think people fundamentally don't do things for themselves. I think we feel connected and excited, and we feel that deep drive will suffer through because there's another that we're serving, right? Like religion does this really well. So the Christian faith, because I know that probably the best, because I come from a Church of England school, it's all about, you know, doing things in service of God, doing things in service of Jesus. I'm not a religious person myself, but I think it's a really good example to show that like Christians will do a lot of different things, even the hard things, because it's in service of something beyond themselves, something, the relationship with God, the relationship with being a Christian. I think these ideas are really important when we think about changing and improving. And I think about this especially, you know, from an addiction point of view, because I specialize in video game addiction. When you want to change those habits of pure addiction and the hedonistic treadmill of like just seeking reward and pleasure and reward and pleasure and reward and pleasure, because I believe that we will all get to a certain point in that treadmill and be like, I feel empty and hollow inside. When we want to change those habits, we need to have something that we're going to suffer for, this bigger thing we're connected to, a community, a group, other people. We need other people, right? And it comes back to the relationships. Establishing new relationships when you're an adult is really hard, right? And that's almost also integral to like ironing out these bad habits that are getting in the way of your goals, right? Do you want a better career? You need to be around people that are in the similar mindset to you. You need to form new relationships or encourage people to join you along the journey you're on. And a lot of people, it might be a hard sell for people if they're not thinking, oh yeah, like I want to improve here and I want to improve there, and you know, I want to establish this business, or I want to professionally push over here, or I just want a better work-life balance, or I want more time for my kids, or whatever, right? All of that's valid. Nothing wrong with that, but we need to be on the same wavelength to people and have similar values, and then feel connected to them and feel like we want to give to them, right? Because maybe to get a little socialist at the end here, ultimately all of the things we do are to facilitate like relational reward, right? We only want the big car and the big house and the money because we want people to look at us and go, whoa, that guy's so cool. He has all the cool things. And I'm jealous of him and I wish I had that stuff. But the stuff itself kind of wears off pretty quick. The sheen of the stuff, right? So if you're going to like work really hard to earn a bunch of money and then get all of the stuff in life, that needs to be connected to your values. And one day you're going to get up and be like, why did I do this again? Oh yeah, for the admiration of my peers, but they okay, I've had this for a while, I don't get that admiration anymore. So it all comes back to relationships, guys. That's why we struggle and that's why we succeed, on the bedrock of those around us. So think about the people around you. Are they bringing you in? Are they having you be in the mindset of the goals you want? I don't know. I'd love to hear about it. Put it in the comments. I want to hear from you. If you got this far, you're pretty based. Give me a W in the chat. I've been Will. You've been wonderful. Thank you. Thunderhawk Coaching. See you in the next video. Take care.